Getting comfortable with new people?
We're just going to cut
Yeah,
through
you know,
here.
that's a really important time. When you're facilitating and you're creating new groups, even if it's groups of people that know each other, I always try to give a couple of minutes for people to just get settled in, to get comfortable with who they're sitting with, make their introductions, without any instructions at all. It happens naturally. But if you try to give instructions when you're creating new groups, and the folks haven't gotten to connect yet, they're not going to hear your instructions. And very often in class, teachers make the mistake of asking people to get into groups and go right to the directions of what they're going to be asking you to do, and we're just not cognitively ready. So that 1 or 2 minutes of investment of giving kids a chance to settle, or any adult learners to settle, you save so much time of having to retell the directions to multiple people. Okay? So I always try to give that couple of minutes of just getting settled when we're forming groups. We're going to be listening in a way that I would imagine most of us have never listened before. And it's a very rigorous form of listening. It's called Constructivist listening. We're going to be I'll be asking you 3 different questions over the course of the Microlab. This is in your toolkit. When we come back to our tables, we'll let you know what page it's on. Constructivist listening is the role of the listener is to be so fully present to the person speaking that you're listening to them to help them speak their truth. You're listening them into speaking their truth. What that means is that we don't have any form of response at all. The person is going to be speaking for 1 minute. They're going to have a minute to think about what they're going to say before they speak. All of us will. But when it's someone else's turn to speak, we are just fully attentive and present. And this is the hardest piece. Try not to nod. Just certainly don't ask any questions or say anything. This is not your minute, it's the speaker's minute. And it's hard not to show any emotion or response, right? And if it happens, it's fine. Don't fight it. But try not to, and here's why. Every time we nod, or every time we make a facial gesture that might show confusion or whatever, it will impact what the person's going to say. And we want to have no influence over what the person's going to say. We want them to dig deep to be able to speak their truth unfiltered. Now, in order to make it safe enough for you to say things that you may never have said before in your life, we establish a rule called double confidentiality. We're probably all familiar with confidentiality. Anything you hear from anyone else in your triad, you cannot share with anybody else. Right? This is just your intimate time. So the first level is pretty common. You just don't share anything that the person said. The double piece of the confidentiality is you cannot go back to that person to follow up on anything they said, because they might not be sure they believe it, their thoughts might have turned, and they'll know that they're protected, that they won't have to defend themselves. Now, they can invite you to come to talk further, but you cannot go to someone in your group and say, oh, I'd really like to talk more about what you said. Could you just check in with each other, make sure you understand what double confidentiality is?
I understand.
Yes. So here's how if you would please count off 1, 2, and 3 in your group. So we have a person number 1, person number 2, person number 3.
1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so here's the way the Microlab works. I'm going to pose a question, and you'll have a full minute to journal on that question, your response, how you would like to answer that question. So everyone is answering the same question, all 3 of you. Then in the first round, person number 1 will speak first for a minute in response to that question. Person number 2 will speak second. Person number 3 will speak third. So that will take a total of 4 minutes, right? A minute of journaling, each person has a minute. Then I'll pose a second question. A minute to journal. Person number 2 goes first. All 3 people will have a minute. And then we'll have the third question and another minute for reflection and journaling. Person number 3 starts, and everyone responds to that prompt. Could you check in with each other, make sure you understand the flow, the directions of the Microlab experience? If you have a question, ask. What questions do you have? Notice I didn't ask, does anyone have a question? Right, which is typically how we ask for questions, and I think many people are, does anyone have a question? Is there anyone who didn't get it? Is there anyone that didn't understand those clear instructions? The expectation that there will be questions is an invitation to ask. So rather than, does anyone have a question, what questions do you have? Having none. Here's the first question. Dig deep. Why are you here? Role as a YATS facilitator. This is in the role of the question is in the context of being a YATS facilitator. Okay? What are your hopes and fears about facilitating peers and adults? What are your hopes and fears about facilitating peers and adults? Okay. So that is the end of your first, I think your first Microlab experience. Yes? Has anyone had done this before?